Silk PLA always looks amazing, but most of the time it's weak and it can be sort of a pain to print. So today we're putting two of them head to head. Hobby Lobby Silk PLA and Amolen Silk PLA. We're testing which one prints better, which one looks better, and which one's actually stronger. I know Silk PLA is not known for its strength, but let's figure out which one's worth your money. If you saw my last video on testing Hobby Lobby PLA, you know we don't just guess which PLA is better, we actually test them. Same printer, same settings, same models. You asked for us to test Hobby Lobby Silk PLA, and that's what we're doing. We're testing it against Amolen because, in my opinion, Amolen creates some of the best Silk PLA. I'm Brian DeLuca, and this is Make or Build It, where we turn ideas into projects, and we do a lot of testing. So now may be the perfect time to hit that subscribe button. So let's see what's happening. Both filaments were printed on the same printer. I used the Bamboo Labs A1 with the exact same settings for both Silk PLAs. Same temps, same speeds, same tuning. So if you've seen our other 3D printing filament test videos, we use a few different objects to test. One, we're going to look at the poop. We also print a Benchy, a calibration cube. We print our Goblin Head, and that actually shows texture and how it handles texture, especially on round surfaces. And we do our bridge test where we measure how much force. Oop, Hobby Lobby is running away. I hope they're not scared. And we do our bridge test with our force meter where we measure how much force it actually takes to snap the PLA, in this case, well, Silk PLA. So let's take a look at these Silk PLAs up close and look at the shininess of the two of them. So Hobby Lobby was out of the white Silk PLA. They only had the silver. So we're sort of comparing it to white, which is not the best test, but let's look how shiny these are in comparison. You can see here, this white definitely looks a little more silky than the silver from Hobby Lobby. So I would argue the Amolen looks a little bit more shiny. And as we can see on these Goblin Heads, they both look pretty shiny. I would argue even printed, the Amolen white definitely has a little more of a silk feel than the Hobby Lobby, but they both look pretty good. You know what? Usually we don't start with the Goblin Head, but since we're here, let's see how this printed. So if we look at the top, this is where my testing comes in, right? If we look at the top, I feel like I could see a little more of the layer lines on the Hobby Lobby than I do on the Amolen. The Amolen looks pretty clean, but the Hobby Lobby, I can see a little bit of layer lines in here. But overall, both of these models have like some really, really good detail. So normally we start with looking at the poop. We started with our Goblin Head just because we were comparing the silks, but let's look at the poop real quick. Here's the poop from the two of them. What I would argue is the Hobby Lobby poop, as you can see right here, is very thick in comparison to the Amolen poop, which seems a little bit thinner, but they were both relatively thick, which is pretty common with some of the Silk PLAs. But the Hobby Lobby, that was some really thick poop. Now let's look at them in comparison to where it was purging one color to the other. We can sort of see the same thing. The Hobby Lobby filament did come out slightly thicker. Now let's look at our Benchies. So our Benchy from Hobby Lobby actually looks pretty clean. There's a little bit of issue right there and in the back window. You see a little bit of layer line right there, but overall it looks pretty good. We do see a little bit of stringing. I don't know if you guys can see that with the, there we go, with the Amolen filament. And same thing, we did see some issues around here, and that could be a calibration issue on both parts. But we did see a little bit more issues and a little bit more stringing with the Amolen filament. And we sort of see the same, in the same spot on both of these, a bit of issue right there. But overall, they both look relatively good. I would say the only difference is the Amolen was a little more stringy. I mean, this Hobby Lobby is just out of the box, where this Amolen has been sitting in the shop for a few months. So it could be the reason there may be a little moisture in this Amolen, why we saw a little bit of more of a stringing. if we look at the calibration cubes, they both look really, really clean to me. So they're both looking pretty good. So they both came out really, really nice. I would argue good job on both of them. Once again, I would say the Amolen definitely shinier. It's really, to me, like here, I don't know if you guys can see on the film, but it is definitely shinier. Now, like I said, we're comparing gray to white, so it's not a true fair test. Now we're going to do the strength test, but let's see how easily these supports come off both of these bridges. This is the Hobby Lobby. Came off really easy. I mean, did stop there, but that came off really easy. And here is the Amolen. A little harder to come off, but same thing. Both came off relatively easy. The bridges look pretty good. Well, actually, so let's look at them. This is the Hobby Lobby one. So we had some issues up there. We had a little bit of issue over there. It could be even like a settings issue on my end. But you see, there's more of an issue on the Hobby Lobby filament than there is on the top of the Amolen filament. I would say definitely the Amolen filament did better on this top bridge. They're not ironed or anything, but you can see, if you can really see that, it's like distressed almost there, where we have a little bit in this corner, but I would say overall the Amolen looks much better. Now let's see how strong they are. I just got to rearrange my desktop real quick, and we're going to test them with our force meter. Oh, Hobby Lobby keeps running away during this video. Hold on. There we go. Okay, first the Hobby Lobby filament. Force meter zeroed out, and here we go. Okay, it looks like it took about 28 newtons of force to bend the Hobby Lobby filament. Now the Amolen filament. Okay, we're zeroed out. Okay. It looked like that one got to about 29 newtons of force, but up on the screen we'll show you how much force each one got. We can see we got a little bit of a crack in the Amolen. It looks like a little more of puncturing in the Hobby Lobby. And we got a bend. I mean, it started breaking, but not all the way through. And I'd say the Amolen held up a little bit better. You can see here, this is actually cracking through the wall, where this is starting to stretch the wall. But I'd say it only cracked over here, where this one cracked pretty much all the way through. Oh, over here, so if we look over here, we see it started splitting. Do you see that at the layer? Where this one held together at this layer. So where the bottom of the bridge connects, this one started cracking. Actually, I don't know if I've ever had that happen before on a print, on one of these bridge tests. All right, I would say overall the Amolen did slightly better in this scenario. Okay, so here's the breakdown. Hobby Lobby filament was slightly less shinier. I would argue this is silver versus white, but the white definitely had a little bit more shine to it than the silver of the Hobby Lobby. It almost looks gray more than a silvery. I mean, there is silver to it, but it's more in that gray family more than a silver to me. Where the Hobby Lobby definitely had a lot more silk feel to the white. In most cases, I would argue the Amolen filament printed nicer, especially on the Goblin. I would argue they were equal on the Calibration Cube. The Hobby Lobby printed slightly cleaner on the Benchy, but I don't know if some of the stringing was because, like I said, this filament maybe needed to be dry a little bit more because it is in the shop, where this one just came right out of the package. But overall, I'd say the Benchy's were equal besides a little bit of stringing we got with the Amolen. Now, here's where I saw the biggest difference, in my opinion. And at first, I was like, wasn't that much difference in the strength test. But when I saw that the Hobby Lobby filament split at this layer line, that sort of concerned me a little bit. Whereas the Amolen held up a lot better in the strength test. I think overall the Amolen is stronger and a lot more consistent in the way it printed than the Hobby Lobby filament, especially we saw some issues up here. So overall, I think the Amolen definitely outperformed the Hobby Lobby filament. Now, that being said, the Hobby Lobby filament does look really good, as well as the Amolen. The other thing I think you need to think about is the price on the Hobby Lobby filament. For a single color filament is $17.99, and you can pick this up locally or on Amazon. And the Amolen at the time of filming was $22.99 for the single color Silk PLA. So the price difference, is it worth it? I mean, I'm not doing a direct comparison with white filament versus white filament here. I am using gray, but I would argue overall the Amolen looked a lot nicer for the extra few dollars it would cost per roll, which would probably be my preference. Once again, I'm not comparing apples to apples. I also think some of the rainbow colors from Amolen actually look much nicer than, and I'm not even going to open this one yet, but then the rainbow colors from Hobby Lobby at this point. So I would say, is it worth the extra few dollars to purchase the Amolen? Absolutely, especially if you want more of a shiny look and a little more durability to your prints that are using Silk PLA, especially that Silk PLA is not really known to be the strongest PLA out there in order to use when you're printing. For more on 3D printing, DIY, or maker projects, make sure you like and follow Maker Build It, and remember, keep on making. Oh, and remember, shiny may get your attention, but consistency gets the win.